What's going on, everybody? It is TripleCrown24 back today doing a special video. This one is going to be a video response, something that I feel like I say this every single time I do a video response, but I haven't done a video response in a while and I want to make sure I do more of them. So I'm going to try to actually hold myself to that this time. I know I keep saying that over and over, but this one is for a good friend of mine. It is Shane over at Shoebox Legends, a fantastic YouTuber and even better friend who reached 500 subscribers. Congrats, Shane. That's a big milestone. I gotta say, I remember when I hit 500 subscribers, and it was a good time. And I'm glad that your channel has grown the way that it has. Again, he's a fantastic content creator. I will make sure to leave the link to his channel in the description down below. But he had a video response topic that really spoke to me. I feel like it is kind of a good time to self-reflect a bit. I oftentimes what you see on here is me talking about things I see in the hobby that don't necessarily relate to things about myself on my podcast, or you see me doing a card show recap where I talk strictly about the business and kind of what went into certain decisions, or you see me talk about COMC, which for the large part is just flipping content. And then outside of that, like rating reveals, when I do those, showing off largely other people's cards as they sent in to be submitted and what they got on them. So really there's not much, I guess, insight into kind of like what I am doing myself. And I figured this would be a good time to kind of share some of that. So he's got two kind of questions, and the first one is the one I'll spend the most time on. He wants to know how you've changed as a collector, and of course, show some cards, which I will do. So when I was young, I've told this story before. Believe it or not, what I was really into was hockey cards. I loved my Red Wings because, well, I mean, think about it. When I grew up, I mean, the Red Wings were in the midst of what I will call a dynasty, and they were competing for the President's Cup every single year. They won several Stanley Cup finals. They had a great team, a great core for many of those years. I mean, it took until I was in college, really, for them to not make the playoffs from the time that I was born, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about. But after a while, I kind of started exploring more and more different sports. The Pistons were good then too. I was fortunate enough to get into sports at a time where all my teams, except for really the Lions, were pretty good and competitive. And then there's 2006, what happened with the Tigers. They go to the World Series, and then baseball kind of became my primary passion. And from there, I was just kind of collecting my favorite players or getting my favorite Tigers. I remember always setting the Tigers aside when I would do blaster box openings when I was a kid, get all the base Tigers out there and keep them all separate. So I guess in that sense, I was a bit of a team collector. But as time went on, I became more and more interested in autographs. My dad, when I was younger, would take me on trips. We saw a lot of great ballparks. I was able to go to Fenway. Been to Wrigley a couple of times. I've been to the OG Yankee Stadium in its final season. Been to both spring training settings, both in Florida and then out in Arizona as well. So I've got to meet a lot of players and get autographs at those places, and it kind of turned me into a bit of an autograph collector, which I went back and forth on. Mostly pack-pulled stuff, but also some in person, some through the mail stuff. And then I became a Detroit Lions kind of collector. I got more so into football as the Lions got better. And then also keeping tabs on the Tigers, collecting, trying to get like one autograph of every player who would come through the system. And I found myself chasing a lot of guys and collecting a lot of guys who never really held their value beyond their rookie year. And that's no secret, is that most of the time, a lot of the hot rookies that come out, their cards will never be as valuable as they are during their rookie year, because when they're first starting out, there's all the opportunity and all the potential there, but as their careers progress, that kind of fades, or people get proven right that, like, hey, these guys actually are legit. So I could go through the whole cast of characters. In fact, I will, just for old time's sake here with the Lions. Tell me if any of these names ring a bell. There was guys like Javid Best, Titus Young, Mikel Lashore, Ryan Broyles, Theo Riddick, Eric Ebron, Amir Abdullah. The list goes on, right? And there were some even before that too, like a Charles Rogers or Joey Harrington. My first favorite player was Joey Harrington, and even kind of going beyond that, Kevin Smith, and then you would have the guys who would hit, but then they would kind of leave, which would be like your Ndamukong Suh type of guys, or I guess a more recent example would be a Kenny Galladay, and really for the most part, I just found myself chasing these guys who really I didn't have much attachment to, because once their Lions careers were over, I really didn't care as much. There weren't that many memories of a lot of these guys. So I kind of drifted away from that, and I kind of got back just to collecting baseball and getting back into the autographs. And one of the things I would do is write players through the mail. So here's one of the cards here. I know it took me 6.5 minutes to finally show off a card. I apologize for that. But this is a TTM that I wrote to J.W. Porter. And I thought that this was really cool because, I mean, I would read online kind of like what to expect from some of these guys who you sent off to. And J.W. Porter, I don't know, he had a thing for guys who had initial names like himself. Apparently, if you wrote them and you went by your initials, I mean, you guys know my name is JT, so I go my initials, and a lot of times he would write back a custom letter, and that's what he did. I just thought that was so cool. I still have that letter. I've gotten letters from players like Whit Merrifield before. I've gotten some other of my favorite Tigers legends that probably only my Tigers fans out there will recognize the names. But I just thought that part of it was so cool. So I did that for a long time, and eventually I kind of lost the passion for it. I lost the passion for writing out the letters, and really just kind of became more of a formality to get them out there. I would try to extend the letters so that they didn't come off as shallow, but at the end of the day, it was me kind of sending unsolicited autograph requests. And I don't know what it was, but just something about that over time, I lost interest in it. I didn't feel right about doing it. I don't know what it was, but I just stopped doing it. And then even like going to games and stuff, I didn't really want to pursue autographs. I don't really like large crowds. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I get drained when I'm around long or large crowds for extended periods over the course of several days. So being kind of like jam-packed and feeling like pressured to try to get access to the players is just, I don't really like the feeling so much. I'd rather just kind of take my time, go to the ballpark, watch the game, enjoy it, rather than having to carry around like autograph stuff and all that. So that kind of disappeared, and then I got inspired by some friends here on YouTube. Nate, Tops85 401, Barry Bonds, Super Collector, Dustin Blake, Kirby Puckett, Super Collector, Eric, Oakland A's 915, Mark McGuire, Super Collector, Ray, I collect Ichiro Suzuki, Super Collector. The list goes on, and I'm sorry if I left anyone out there, but what it kind of led me to do is think about, all right, my favorite player is Miguel Cabrera. My screen name is TripleCrown24 after Miguel Cabrera. I'm going to just start collecting his cards, because I would always set his cards aside whenever I pull them out of a box or a pack or something. And that's what I did for several years. I was a super collector. And I'll show you one here. This was a card that was gifted to me by my good friend Eric in those back pages. First year of Dynasty patch auto. Sold off most of my Cabrera collection. The ones that were gifted to me are the ones that have a ton of sentimental value I ended up holding on to. But I sold it off for a number of reasons. I had some medical bills that came up, and I didn't want to impede the growth of my business, I guess is the best way to put it, in order to like save my collection. But I kind of just got burned out with it. It felt like I was more so just going through the motions, picking up cards and chasing down all the different parallels and keeping up with multiple new releases every week and more parallel cards that were going for more and more amount as his popularity continued to return to a lot of his cards, and all of a sudden having to pay $50 for something that once cost $20, it just got exhausting and it wasn't fun anymore. So I decided, I had the opportunity to enjoy these cards while I did, and then it was time to let other people enjoy them. And that's exactly what I did. So I ended up moving on from the majority of it. Like I said, the ones that were gifts or the ones that have sentimental value or the ones that I held on to. Uh, but for the most part, it's just something that I lost the passion for, and it didn't make sense to hold on to them anymore. So I kind of stepped away from that. And then I was doing the Tigers autograph collection as well, but again, it was just one of those things where I felt like I kept getting distracted by acquiring cards as a dealer and trying to keep up with that, whereas I was spending so much time acquiring and moving through inventory that I didn't really want to spend my extra time building a collection. So I ended up kind of just putting that off to the side, and it's a project that I haven't touched in quite some time. Probably since the National of last year was the last time that I added anything to it, and I don't really plan to anytime in the near future. But that was just kind of one of those things that I've slowly added to it over the course of what I guess it's a decade plus. So I'm sure one day it will interest me again and I'll pursue it once again. But for now, it's just one of those things that I have them. I'll look at them from time to time, but I'm not really actively pursuing them. And I find that a lot of these changes, especially in some of my more recent interests, started to occur when I became a dealer. And a lot of people say out there, I would never want to become a dealer because I would want to keep everything, or I would have to like sell everything and I couldn't keep anything. And I have to say that is definitely one of the biggest challenges, is knowing when I can keep something and knowing when I can't keep something. And for the longest time I have operated under, I will keep this unless someone gives me my number. But in recent times, it's felt like a lot of times when I get something really cool, someone meets my number and even exceeds it at times, and it happens fairly quickly after I acquire said card. I don't know how many times I feel like I've said on a video showing off my pickups from a show, this is one that's not going anywhere unless someone gives me my number, and then the next week it's gone. It feels like it's a common occurrence. And I guess that's kind of the case with this card here. This is from, I would guess, I think it's my most recent recap video, Steve Yzerman Gold Prism. It is available for sale. I have it marked up significantly from what I paid to acquire it. But it's one of those, and unless someone gives me my number, I'll hold on to it. I don't mind holding on to it. I can move other things, and I do have to sell some things, but that's kind of where the difficulty lies for me in it. And then on top of it too, I feel like with sports cards, it's easier for me to kind of collect something else outside of it because I'm allowed to, I can create more of a parameter for myself. So one of the things that I've actually been getting more into recently, because it's a bit different, is Pokemon. Now, I was never a Pokemon collector as a kid. I was more so into Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid, and those were the cards that I had. So that's probably something that I would like to pursue again here in the future now that the market on that is significantly corrected. I'm looking at some things potentially down the line. Not immediately. Some of the things I want are still quite costly, so it's not going to be a decision that I make anytime soon. But they're in the back of my mind. Regardless, though, with the Pokemon, as I've been kind of buying some Pokemon lots or shopping around and buying some Pokemon inventory since I'm selling it so well, I am trying to basically keep a few things for myself along the way. So, show this off. Again, another card that I picked up at the most recent show, this Moltres Holo from 1999. I love the artwork on all of these cards. I'll put this one kind of over here. This is one that I bought off of eBay. I think this thing was like maybe $40 with shipping. It's a Charizard PSA 10 from Hidden Fates. Sun and Moon. And it's just cool. I love the artwork. I love how it looks like the fireball is like shooting out of the card. The texture on it kind of has like a lava pattern to it, like one of those lava refractors that Topps is doing now. So that is something that I have really enjoyed. And then I'm actually gonna, some of you will know this sound as soon as I make it. That's right, it's Z Folio time. I've actually been working on a couple of sets. So I'm working on the new Crown Zenith set, and then I'm also kind of working through the Silver Tempest set because I had so many left over from the case break that I did, which was mostly for inventory purposes. But I'll kind of show you here. Apologies for the shaky camera that's about to come. I mean, here's like some of the pages in my binder, and this is one of the better ones right now. This is from like the gallery subset. And to me, it's just super cool. Like, I love the artwork on them. Move this back now. I love the artwork on them, and I just love being able to kind of go through them and see like all the different ones and kind of pick out some of my favorites. And I don't know what direction I'm going to take the Pokemon right now. I'm just kind of sampling it, I guess. And who knows, maybe 3 months from now, I won't really care, and I won't be adding those cards. But the beauty of it is that there's always something new to chase, and there's probably always something that will catch my interest. But I'm having a really good time with it right now. I'm really having fun building that set, and it's something that I've been able to kind of balance with my dealer life. Like, I have a budget for the Pokemon stuff, so I know what I allot myself to spend on it, and I know kind of when I can target certain cards for my set, or if I want to buy a graded card for myself. I know when I can go after that kind of stuff. And then hopefully, you know, as I starting to build some grading orders for Pokemon, I can actually end up keeping a few of the cards that I submit on my own, just making sure that I get back to even on the stuff I'm sending in, and I'm also turning a profit to pay for my expenses. But I am, from some advice from some of those who I've confided into kind of what I've been feeling with my collecting life, kind of thinking about just trying to build a collection. Here's another example too. This is a lot that I just purchased from someone in the PSA group. His name is Mike. So Mike, I appreciate it. This is all like vintage 60s Topps baseball here. And I mean, there's some cool cards in here like this Aaron. I like this Aaron. I like this Maze as well. And a lot of these cards, you know, they're going to go in. You can see some Hall of Fame rookies as I go through the stack. All of these are going to go into my store. But ideally, once I can kind of make what I need to make on them, if you will, I will probably look to put one of them aside. That's kind of one of the pieces of advice that was given to me in recent times, was that someone who I know and I work with has told me, you know, one of the things I like to do is take one thing whenever I buy a collection and kind of just set it aside for myself to keep it. And I kind of thought, you know, I think that's a good way to do it. That there can be a balance between constantly having to move things and also wanting to keep everything. So that is what I'm going to kind of challenge myself to do, is to, I think it will encourage me to try to make better deals, because I'm going to have to be able to give myself more room in order to turn a profit and to turn the profit that I want, whereas I can manage to keep something as well. So that's kind of where I'm at right now going forward. I'm having a lot of fun. This is actually some of the most fun that I've had since I became a dealer, I would say, is right now, because I feel like I have a lot of freedom to make the deals that I want to make, and that I just have the best grip of things right now than I have before. Perhaps part of that is growth, which I would hope I would grow a little bit, considering it's been what, 3.5 years. I would hope that I would have learned some things by now, but a lot of the things that I'm doing now, I think just kind of shows that I'm on the right track in a lot of those senses. So that is kind of how I've changed as a collector. Part of that was how I've changed as a dealer as well, but for me, it kind of just goes hand in hand. And I wanted to talk about how I am walking that line. So yeah, that's kind of how I have morphed over the years as a collector. Now, to answer the second question, some of you probably forgot there was a second question because I babbled on so long. Shane asked to name one extinct brand or set that you would like to see revived, which I have a lot of them. There's a lot of sets out there that I would like to see, and I think with like the tops, the easiest one to go to would be with kind of the Fanatics deal looming to get the Tops basketball and football products back. You'd have Tops Chrome for those types of products. I think that's kind of the layup answer, if you will, pun fully intended there. And that's what a lot of people would say. And I would like to see those back as well. There's just something about some of those early Tops Chrome refractors that just get me excited. So that's kind of one of the products that I would say I would like to see revived at some point in time. A lot of the Upper Deck brands, like an Exquisite Collection, that's something that I would love to see come back. I highly doubt that we would see that anytime in the foreseeable future unless Upper Deck was bought out by Fanatics. It could happen. Seen crazier things happen. But that's probably one of the ones that I would probably point to, would be something like that, or even just a flagship Upper Deck product. I think that their base card designs are some of the cleanest looking in all the hobby. I do miss Upper Deck baseball from back in the day, and some Upper Deck football as well. Those are the ones that really jump out to me. Other than that, there's nothing that really I can think of, because I feel like most of the brands or ideas have been brought back over the last 5, 6, 7 years in some fashion, or a lot of the technologies that were used on cards, perhaps back in the 90s, have returned today, just maybe in some kind of different name or moniker due to licensing rights, or people just wanted to change the name, whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's kind of where I would want to see some things come back. But that is it. Finally wrap this up here. I appreciate anyone who stuck through and took the time to listen to this today, kind of walked through my story with me. Would love to hear your stories as well. If you're doing a video response, let me know. I'll have to check it out, because I always like to hear kind of how people evolve and how their tastes change. It's part of something I always try to understand to keep myself ahead of the game as a dealer and make sure that I have what people want. So I'm definitely very interested to see what other people have to say, but need to wrap this up here with a big thank you to my friend Shane for having this idea, hosting this contest, and encouraging people to kind of share their stories out there as well, and celebrate his 500 sub accomplishment. That's a great milestone. Here's to 500 more, Shane. Congratulations. You have an incredible channel, and can't wait to see what is coming next for you, my friends. So until next time, everyone, take care, stay safe, be kind.